I grew up believing that my mother's love was a steady, immovable thing, like the foundation of the Victorian house we lived in. I am the reliable one. The daughter who remembers birthdays, handles the taxes, and stays up late listening to my mother's complaints about her bad knees and her difficult life. My brother, Leo, is the golden ghost. He appears every 6 months, flashes a charming smile, leaves a pile of laundry, and vanishes with a few $100s of mom's pension. I never complained because I thought I was the one who truly mattered. I was the one who stayed. The house always smells like lavender and old secrets. My father left us a significant estate when he passed away 10 years ago, the house, a summer cottage in Maine, and a substantial investment portfolio. My mother, Evelyn, is the sole executor. It's all going to be shared equally, she used to tell me while I scrubbed her kitchen floors. You're my rock, Sarah. I don't know what I'd do without you. I believed her. I built my life around that promise, staying close to home, taking a local job, instead of the promotion in Chicago, just so she wouldn't be alone. Leo is the opposite of a rock. He's a sieve. Everything he touches drains away. He's 40 years old and still finding his muse in the bottom of expensive gin bottles and failed startups. Every time he calls, my stomach twists. It's never to ask how I am. It's always about a bridge loan or a can't-miss opportunity. I watched Mom's eyes light up every time his name flashed on her phone. I told myself it was just maternal instinct, a desire to fix the broken bird. I didn't realize she was building him a nest out of my feathers. That was the moment everything changed. It was a Tuesday afternoon, gray and heavy with the threat of rain. I was sitting in the sunroom, sorting through the mail, when I saw a thick envelope from the family attorney, Mr. Henderson. It wasn't addressed to me. It was addressed to Leo Vance. The seal was broken. My heart hammered against my ribs as I pulled out the documents. I expected a small gift, maybe a birthday check. Instead, I found a deed transfer for the main cottage and a full liquidation order for the investment accounts. All of it, every cent, was being moved into a trust where Leo was the sole beneficiary. I felt invisible. I stood there in the house I had maintained for a decade, looking at the proof that I had been erased. The numbers on the page blurred into a smear of ink and betrayal. My father's legacy, the money he told me would ensure my future, was being handed over to a man who couldn't even keep a plant alive. My mother walked into the room, then, humming a tune, carrying a tray of tea. She saw the papers in my hand. She didn't flinch. She didn't apologize. She just set the tray down and sighed, as if I were the one being difficult. "He needs it more than you do, Sarah," she said, her voice cold and flat. "You're successful. You're strong. Leo is fragile. This is his last chance to make something of himself." I looked at her, truly looked at her, and realized that my decades of loyalty were worth less than Leo's latest failure. I was the reliable daughter, which apparently meant I was the one who didn't need a life of her own. I was the help. He was the heir. The weeks that followed were a blur of cold fury and silent dinners. I watched them. I watched Leo move into the guest room, already talking about selling the main cottage to fund a luxury glamping venture in the desert. He treated the house like a hotel and Mom like a servant, yet she beamed at him. She wouldn't even look me in the eye. When I tried to bring it up, she snapped. "Stop being so greedy, Sarah. You have your career. Let your brother have this one thing." This one thing was my entire inheritance. This one thing was my father's dying wish. I realized then that they thought I wouldn't fight back. They saw me as the good girl who followed the rules and accepted her lot in life. They thought my silence was compliance. It wasn't. It was observation. I started digging into the estate papers, the ones Mom kept in the locked desk in the library. I found things she didn't want me to see. I found that the trust wasn't just for Leo's future. It was a shield. Mom had been dipping into the principal for years to pay off Leo's gambling debts, and now she was trying to empty the rest before I could claim my legal share. I felt like a stranger in my own skin. Every time I heard them laughing in the living room, a piece of my heart turned to stone. I had spent my 30s being a daughter, a caregiver, a safety net. I had sacrificed relationships and travel and peace of mind. For what? To be discarded the moment the prodigal son returned? I sat in my room at night, the shadows stretching across the walls, and I realized I didn't have a family. I had a parasite and its enabler. The betrayal wasn't just about the money. It was the calculated way they did it. They waited until the anniversary of Dad's death, a time when I was most vulnerable, to finalize the signatures. They thought I was too blinded by grief to notice. I saw them whispering in the kitchen, heads together, plotting how to get me to move out so Leo could take over the main house too. I heard Leo say, "She can just get an apartment, Mom. She's got that fancy job." And Mom replied, "I'll tell her after the holidays. Let's just have a nice Christmas first." I wanted to scream. I wanted to burn the house down with all of us inside. Instead, I went to see a different lawyer. Not Mr. Henderson, who was clearly in Mom's pocket, but a shark I found through a colleague. He looked at the original will and the new transfers and smiled. "Your father was a very smart man, Sarah," he said. "He knew your mother had a blind spot for Leo." He put in a continuity of care clause that she seems to have overlooked. The clause was simple. The estate was only transferable if the executor remained in sound mind and capable of managing affairs without undue influence. If there was evidence of financial elder abuse or coercion, the power of attorney shifted automatically to the secondary executor. Me, I had been sitting on a nuclear button for years and didn't even know it. But I didn't push it yet. I needed them to think they had won. I needed them to go all the way, so the fall would be harder. I started playing the part of the dutiful, defeated daughter. I told Mom I understood. I told Leo the first was happy for him. I even helped him research his glamping business, feeding him bad advice that he swallowed whole because he's as arrogant as he is lazy. I watched him spend money he didn't technically have yet, taking out high-interest loans against the imminent inheritance. I watched Mom sign papers she didn't read, trusting her precious boy to handle the details. The tension in the house was a living thing. Every dinner was a performance. I would sit there, nodding as Leo bragged about the silk sheets he was ordering for his tents, while Mom looked at him with tears of pride in her eyes. "You're finally becoming the man your father wanted you to be," she whispered. I almost choked on my wine. My father would have despised the man Leo had become. My father was a man of integrity and hard work. Leo was a vulture in a designer suit. I spent my nights documenting everything. Every time Leo took Mom's credit card. Every time he yelled at her when she didn't give him enough cash. Every time he forced her to sign a document while she was dazed on her evening medication. I had cameras in the common areas, small, hidden things they never noticed. I captured it all. The emotional manipulation, the threats, the way he would lean over her until she cringed just to get her to sign another check. I felt like a spy in enemy territory. The house I once loved felt like a cage. I would walk through the halls and see the portraits of us as children, me with my pigtails, Leo with his mischievous grin. How did we get here? How did a mother decide that one child deserved everything and the other deserved nothing? I realized that Mom didn't love Leo. She loved the idea of saving him. She needed him to be broken so she could feel like a hero. And she needed me to be strong so she could use me as a crutch. The strategic comeback began 3 weeks before the final transfer was set to be notarized. I didn't stop them. I actually encouraged them to host a massive relaunch party for Leo's business at the house. I told Mom it was the perfect way to show the world and the family that Leo was back on top. Invite everyone, I suggested. The cousins, Dad's old business partners, the neighbors. Let everyone see the new Leo. She loved the idea. She spent thousands on catering and decorations, using the last of her liquid savings. I was the one who handled the guest list. I made sure to invite the estate attorney, the bank's branch manager, and a few of my father's most respected colleagues. I also invited a private investigator I'd hired to track Leo's business expenses. He arrived with a dossier that would make a mob boss blush. Leo was so confident. He was walking around the party in a $3,000 suit, holding a flute of champagne, telling anyone who would listen about his empire. Mom was glowing. She wore her best pearls, the ones Dad gave her for their 25th anniversary. She looked at me and squeezed my hand. See, Sarah? I knew he could do it. You were just being cynical. I smiled back, a sharp, cold smile. You're right, Mom. Tonight is going to be unforgettable. I felt a strange sense of peace. The girl who wanted her mother's approval was dead. The woman who wanted justice was very much alive. The party reached its peak in the grand dining room. Leo stood at the head of the table, ready to make his big announcement. He had a contract in his hand, the final document that would transfer the deed of the house to him. He wanted to sign it in front of everyone, a grand gesture of taking his place as the head of the family. I stood in the corner, my phone connected to the house's new audiovisual system. I'd like to thank my mother, Leo began, his voice booming. The only person who ever truly believed in me. Today, we secure the Vance legacy for the next generation. He reached for the pen. The room was silent. People were nodding, though some of Dad's old friends looked uncomfortable. They knew what Leo was. They just didn't know the extent of the rot. Before you sign that, Leo, I said, my voice cutting through the room like a blade. I think everyone should see what the Vance legacy actually looks like these days. I tapped a button on my phone. The large screen in the dining room, usually used for family slideshows, flickered to life. But it wasn't photos of our childhood. It was a video from 3 nights ago. The room gasped. On the screen, Leo was towering over Mom in the kitchen. He was red-faced, screaming at her because she hadn't moved the final $100,000 into his account yet. Sign it, you old bat, he yelled on the recording. I've spent months playing nice with you. Just sign the damn paper, so I can get out of this dump. We watched as Mom sobbed, trembling, as he forced the pen into her hand. The silence that followed was deafening. Leo froze, the pen hovering over the contract. Mom turned white, her hand flying to her throat. I didn't stop there. I swiped my phone, and the screen changed to a spreadsheet, a detailed list of every cent Leo had stolen from the estate over the last 6 months, paired with receipts from high-stakes poker rooms and luxury hotels. He's not building a business, Mom, I said, stepping into the center of the room. He's liquidating your life to pay off his debts to people you don't want to meet. Sarah, turn it off. Mom shrieked, but her voice lacked conviction. She looked around the room at the judgmental faces of her peers. The illusion was shattered. The fragile boy was revealed as a predator. The rock was revealed as the one with the power. I handed a folder to Mr. Henderson, who was standing near the buffet, looking horrified. That's the evidence of coercion and mental distress, I told him. As of 10 minutes ago, I filed an emergency injunction. Your power of attorney is suspended, Mom. And Leo? The police are waiting outside regarding the forged signatures on those loan applications. The chaos that erupted was glorious. Leo tried to bolt, but 2 of Dad's old friends, men who had actually loved my father, blocked the door. Mom collapsed into a chair, wailing about the shame. I didn't feel a flicker of guilt. I felt light. I had spent my whole life protecting her from the truth, and she had rewarded me with betrayal. Now, she had to live with the truth in a room full of people who saw her for exactly what she was, a woman who traded her daughter's future for a lie. I walked over to the table and picked up the contract Leo hadn't signed. I tore it in half. I'm moving out tonight, I told my mother, leaning down so only she could hear me. The house is being put into a managed trust for your care. You'll have enough to live on, but you'll never touch the principal again. And Leo? He's on his own. I've cut him off from everything. I'm the executor now. I'm the one who decides who gets what. And you get exactly what you gave me. Nothing but a roof over your head and the silence of the people who actually cared. I walked out of that house with 1 suitcase and my dignity. I didn't look back at the flashing police lights or the sound of my mother calling my name. I had spent so long trying to be part of a family that didn't exist. I had been the victim for 30 years, but as I drove away, I realized I was finally the author of my own story. They thought I wouldn't fight back because they didn't understand what happens when a good girl finally realizes that being good was just another way of being used. Sometimes losing your family is the price of finding yourself.